My name is Daniel, and this is the Engineering Success Podcast, episode 77. If you're listening for the first time, the Engineering Success Podcast is a podcast for early career and aspiring engineers. We have interviews of engineers that have achieved different career milestones and different career paths. And we also have mailbag episodes like this one, where I just kind of talk about topics related to career searches in general, and pursuing engineering in college as a major, and navigating different situations as an early career professional in engineering. So this is one of those mailbag episodes, and thank you so much for listening to the podcast. You don't know me, my name is Daniel Dollinger, and I am a mechanical engineer by degree, and I work in the engineering consulting industry in the industrial, energy kind of spaces primarily, though I've had the opportunity to work on some transportation jobs and other kind of, commercial construction or engineering projects as well. So I've had a pretty wide variety of projects I've gotten to work on. The interesting thing about me is that I had a non-traditional path in my engineering career. I actually have done minimal design work in my career, and I've had my career grow in the area of pursuits for projects and now project management and project execution and delivery. Anyways, I've had a interesting career journey, and that is why I started this podcast, to help people understand and see different career paths that engineers can take. I'm trying something a little bit different today. If you're watching on the video, I don't have headphones on, and I'm just seeing if that's better, worse. It is not making too much of a difference for me because I'm not. I use the headphones as monitors so I can listen to myself, but I'm not doing that this time. Trying to be a little bit, a little bit different of an approach. So let me know if you like it. Don't like it. Headphones, no headphones. It doesn't make too big of a difference to me. Though, as a musician, sometimes I do like having the monitor in my ear. Okay. The podcast is divided into multiple segments. The first segment is a recurring segment where we have a little bit of fun. It's called This Week in LinkedIn Lunatics. And then we go into questions about pursuing engineering as a major. Sometimes we talk about internships, but it's not internship season, so we're not talking about those right now. And then we're going to talk about job searching and then situations to navigate on the job. All right. Well, let's get into our first segment, This Week in LinkedIn Lunatics, which is named after the subreddit r/LinkedIn Lunatics, where we look at some questionable posts and interactions on LinkedIn and see how we feel about them. Here's the first one. We're not hiring employees. We're building a team of warriors. Hey, Blake, what's the budget you have in mind for the role? The budget is whatever makes sense for someone who delivers 10 times impact. If you're asking about salary before showing what you can build, this probably isn't the right place. We're not hiring employees. We're building a team of warriors. If you're in, prove it. Yeah, no, it's pretty reasonable to try to establish the budget range for a role. Now, companies may not be willing to blink first, and that's kind of annoying, but you should be able to, in a career job search, kind of say, hey, like, here's the range that is what I am looking for. Is this aligning with the range that you have for this role? So that way you can even determine if you're ever going to get to a agreement. Because the whole point of a interview process and hiring somebody is getting to hire somebody. And if you have unrealistic and unmatched expectations for one another going into that process, then really it's a waste of time, and you shouldn't really continue those conversations. So it's reasonable to ask for a budget, and it's unreasonable to have this kind of reaction. This seems like the reaction of somebody that just doesn't understand the amount of time that goes into interviewing somebody, or that is planning on lowballing somebody. But if you're, goodness, why would you want to invest that much time and then go ahead and lowball somebody? That just seems like a waste of your energy if you're the founder or the hiring manager at a company. So yes, I'd say this is 10 to 10 on the lunatic scale for this week's LinkedIn Lunatics. Let me know in the chat, in the comments, what you think. All right, let's go into the next one. This one is bro. Okay. And he says, open to marry. Interesting. There's so many of us in the right age, right stage of careers, financially independent, emotionally ready, and genuinely looking for a genuine partner to build life with. If you can relate to this, here's an experiment. If LinkedIn can't get us can get us jobs, clients, mentors, and investors, why can't it help us find love? Let's start something called Open to Marry. If you're genuinely ready, just drop your profession and city in the comments. If we cross 100 comments, the city is with the most entries will get its own offline event filled with laughter, fun games, and maybe your first courtship moment. Okay, the only situation where this makes sense, and it doesn't make sense, by the way, this doesn't make sense on LinkedIn at all. But the only scenario where it like wouldn't be like full on the most cringy kind of off-putting thing I'd ever see on my LinkedIn profile is if this person works in the kind of matchmaking industry. If that's the case, then okay, kind of cringe, but I get it. You're trying to network and promote your business and it's related to your business. But if you are not in that industry, then my goodness, this is ridiculous. This is insane. No, LinkedIn is not a dating site. And the only people that should be talking about dating sites on LinkedIn and dating are people that work in the dating industry. Otherwise, no. I've heard countless stories from women who have been, mainly women, who have been approached by men in their direct messages on LinkedIn, asking them for propositioning them for dates and stuff like that. And LinkedIn is a professional networking site. It's not anything more than that. We don't need to turn LinkedIn into anything more than it already is. LinkedIn is not a dating website. So this is, again, if he's in dating and he's just trying to, grow his pool for his matchmaking company, 6 out of 10 on the lunatic scale. But if this man is not, 10 out of 10 on the lunatic scale. All right. Well, that was this week in LinkedIn Lunatics. Let me know what you thought. Were these some good ones? Is this what you kind of see on LinkedIn? This is, thankfully for me, this is not the majority of what I see on LinkedIn, but my goodness, it is, LinkedIn has lately been devolving into something more than just a professional networking and job site. So that's a trend I've been observing, but again, not everything. No, you don't see that stuff every day yet. But man, I've seen some crazy stuff on there. All right. Next one is titled, It's insane that you can study for 4 years so hard, majors, and still end up unemployed due to oversaturations. 4 years of hard work, sleepless nights, plenty of projects, internships, 3.5 plus GPA, only to end up in oversaturated fields like mechanical engineering. College is literally a scam. You work so hard for 4 years and go into debt without any payoff. I could as well not go to college at all and it wouldn't change anything. F this oversaturated field. I wish I never studied mechanical engineering. Maybe if there wasn't 10 mechanical engineering graduates per one job, it would be better. Interesting. So I don't think that this is true, but I'm going to look something up. Okay, so there's the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is the U.S. kind of agency for tracking labor statistics. And while we've been in this government shutdown, we haven't gotten updates of the last couple months. And mechanical engineering jobs. That being said, they do some really cool research. And yeah, they do some great research on statistics on labor data. And so part of my role, I'm a commercial manager, so I study labor trends, salaries, inflation, escalation. It's part of my job to help my leadership at my company plan out how we bill for our work to our clients. But you look at this. This is the one that that's interesting to me. And the statistic that kind of stands out to me, job outlook. The projected percent change in employment from 2024 to 2034, the average growth rate for all occupations is 3%. So 9% growth rate. That means that the number of mechanical engineering jobs available far outpace the volume of the average profession. If I'm interpreting this correctly, yes. Employment of mechanical engineers is projected to grow 9% from 2024 to 2034, much faster than the average for all occupations. About 18,000 openings for mechanical engineers are projected each year on average over the decade. Many of these openings are expected to result from the need to replace workers who transfer to different occupations or exit the labor force, such as to retire. Okay, let's do this. How many... wrong shot, and my cat is making me like triple task here. How many engineering graduates per year in the US? Wow. Interesting. So that's 12,000 new jobs. Interesting. This is fascinating. I'm kind of learning this with you guys right now. Here, let's go to this one. All right. 141,000 engineering graduates in the US each year. Okay, so if I'm reading that statistic right, okay, mechanical engineers. Okay, that's all engineers. Mechanical engineering graduates, about 35,000 individuals per year. And we're saying that the number of openings for new mechanical engineers is 18,000. Okay, so maybe it is a 2 to 1. That's interesting. Wow, that's not the result that I was expecting, you know? That is yeah, it looks like oh, interesting though. There are currently more than 920,000 engineering roles open in the US, with more than 61,000 alone looking for mechanical engineers. Okay, so we're adding we're graduating 35,000 mechanical engineers a year. We're adding 18,000 new mechanical engineering jobs each year. And there are 920,000 engineering roles open in the US. I don't know what that works out to. What that sounds like to me is that, yes, some people will graduate and not be able to get an engineering job. If you interpret that data differently, maybe I need to do a deeper... Should I do a deeper dive on this? Let me know down in the comments below. That is interesting. I guess what I take away from that is that, yeah, there may be a factor that makes it hard to get an engineering job because of the number of people graduating with engineering degrees. That being said, whenever I graduated college, again, the labor market is a little bit different now than whenever I graduated from college in 2019. That said, whenever I was interviewing for internships and jobs, there were a lot of jobs available to interview for that, and the moment I wasn't interested in interviewing for. It was interesting. Like, I went to the Society of Women Engineers career fair. I went to the Society of Women Engineers conference, attended a couple sessions, and then went to the career fair. And it was interesting because the companies like SpaceX and Tesla and Lockheed and stuff had super long lines. And there were, like, for every one of those companies, there's like 20 other companies that had like nobody in line for their booth at the career fair. And I remember looking up all these companies like, oh, I don't like your location. And, oh, I'm not really interested in working for a company that does plastic exclusively. And I think I'm not saying that you can't have a preference of location or exact job. But again, we just looked at the numbers. There's a limited number of engineering jobs out there, new ones. There's plenty of engineering jobs that already exist out there, more than the number of graduates per year. Um, so if if you're in a situation where you're struggling to find a job, you may want to expand your radius. And in fact, what I would encourage people to do is to expand your radius from the beginning. Obviously, if you have a particular company you want to work for or an industry you want to work in, reach for it. Do everything you can to set yourself up so that way, whenever you graduate, you're the best resume possible to apply for a job with that company in that industry. However, whenever it comes down to it, especially whenever we are all hearing that the entry level labor market has just been brutal, then if you know that it's brutal out there, then you need to be less picky. That's the reality. And once again, we're hearing that the entry level market is brutal. So get a couple years under your belt, live in a new city, experience a new culture, experience something new. It doesn't have to be permanent. It's a first job. It doesn't mean it have to be the only job you ever have. Be a little bit more, willing to expand your horizons. That's the advice that I have. So that post was deleted from the subreddit for engineering students. I don't know why, but yep. Okay. Next one. It's not possible to just use AI to get a degree, especially for STEM degrees. I've seen quite a bit of talk about college students using AI to cheat through school and how it's worrying for careers like nursing and engineering, etc. I don't really understand the argument because one, people have been cheating since school is a thing, and more importantly, it's not even possible to use just AI throughout all classes unless maybe you go to an online college. Can you use AI on homework? Yes. Essays? Yes. Exams and quizzes that are primarily in person, especially for STEM degrees? No. Even without going into how hard it is to become a doctor and they still go through many stages of education that one can't just use AI to get through, I see this as just the current hype about students. What do you think? Yeah, I agree. It's not possible to use just AI to get a degree, especially for STEM degrees. And again, effectively using AI, using it to help yourself learn, um, that that AI can actually be really helpful for students that are willing to put in the effort to learn. AI can be a wonderful tool for those students. That being said, I am getting concerned, especially with courses being curved. You know, if students across the board are really struggling, and I would just hope. Oh my goodness, I would just hope that there's not a lowering of the standard, and I'm not hearing any reports that there are, but that would concern me. Or like, I don't know, removing some of the elements of tests and things that are tested, because of the students not being able to do certain things. That would be a concerning indicator, and I'm not seeing that indicator either. One thing that I am seeing that is concerning me is just the, oh my goodness, the AI slopification of writing. And I I don't I don't judge somebody for using AI to help them scaffold or brainstorm or structure and plan out an essay or get rid of that writing block. I don't judge somebody for that. I If I'm under pressure to move fast, I'm going to use whatever tools that are available to me to move as quickly as possible and get the thing done as effectively as possible. That said, man, there was just, overcoming writer's block and spending time thinking and thinking and thinking through something to structure something out thoughtfully. That there was so much that learning that happened in that moment, and my heart hurts a bit for the people that aren't going to have that learning because they go straight to AI. I think that the quality of writing is probably going to go down over time. I think that people's willingness to just sit with things and try to process and understand them, um, is going to go down over time. And I think that students, I mean, I again, I'm my concern, and again, exams kind of should weed this out if the exam standards haven't changed, which I have not seen any indicators that the exam standards have changed. But man, if you're going straight to AI or Chegg or ChatGPT or whatever to kind of solve your problems for you for your homework every time, and you're not spending the time of reviewing your notes and working through the book and trying to work through problems, then you're going to struggle on tests. And if you just breeze by, then and you're somehow able to breeze by without ever really spending the time to actually critically think about why, which solution and why. And if your tests are structured in a manner that it's just so obvious which solution you need to apply, and you just have to regurgitate what you learned in ChatGPT, then then the quality's down, and you're doing yourself and everybody else around you a disservice. So that was an AI slop of a response. But yeah, I guess it's not possible to just use AI to get a degree. I am still concerned about the impact it's having on the quality of people's writing and people's willingness to sit through things to solve problems. But as long as the standards aren't changing, then I'm not worried about it on the whole. I am going to be a little bit concerned with if I start seeing graduates come out that just are unwilling to sit with things and try to problem solve. If that, and I think that is just part of mentoring and training the workers underneath you. That's something that I'm working with my colleagues with every day, my younger colleagues, of helping them kind of figuring out when to troubleshoot, how far to spend time troubleshooting, and when to ask for help. That's just part of I think being an engineer and being a professional in general. But I'm not seeing it be especially worse now than it was whenever I was coming into school. I think that's just a common effect where people like to rib on the generations of people that come after them. All right. Well, those were our questions about engineering in college. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about job searches in engineering. All right. And we are back with questions about the job search. Let's go into it. Researching your future team before joining a company. How can you research the team of a larger company you're planning to join, specifically the team you'll be working with, to gain some insight into their dynamics and ensure that they're a good fit? That's a great question. I think that interviewing for a job is as much about you interviewing the company as it is the company interviewing you, especially if you already have a job and you're trying to weigh whether or not you're willing to make a jump for a new job. Great question. A lot of companies have their hiring schedule, their interview schedule, and I know that the companies generally kind of set the interview schedule. But that being said, I mean, I don't see any reason why you couldn't ask to meet some of the members of the team. What I would say is that if you're given the opportunity to do an on-site interview, especially if you're interviewing for an in-person job, then definitely take that. That's a great way to meet the team, and maybe if you can time it so that way it's right your interview's right before lunch, so you can go get lunch with the team. You can even say, hey, whenever the recruiter or the hiring manager is asking you for availability, you can say, hey, I'm available on this day. Why don't we? How about 11? And then maybe we could grab lunch afterwards with the team. If I were a hiring manager and somebody said that, especially if I was really interested in that candidate, I'd probably be like, yeah. Now, if I wasn't sure how I felt about you, this is probably not the kind of thing that I do after a first interview. It's probably one of those things I do after a second or third interview. But yeah, no, this is a great way to meet the team, is to try to meet some of the players that aren't the boss, away from the boss. That's what I try to do, is try to meet with other people that aren't the boss in a setting that's away from the boss. But yeah, that's a good question. Other thing you could do is you could go on Glassdoor and then try to read and see if there's a location in a person's comment. Sometimes there's locations, so you can kind of get an idea of the office culture in that particular office, and then you can also read the comments and search for that office. Reddit is a good place to go, especially apparently if you want to work for Burns and McDonnell, they have a whole subreddit. Some companies have entire subreddits for their people that are employees there to talk about their experiences working there. But what I will say about Reddit and just job review websites in general is that just like reviews for restaurants and Google reviews and Yelp reviews, you're going to get heavily weighted on the extremes. People are much more willing to write a review whenever they have a bad experience or an exceptionally good experience, but most likely when they have a bad experience. So take that context into consideration whenever you're reading one of those types of reviews. But yeah, that's a great question. Let's see what other people on Reddit, because I'm curious. That's what I would do. What would other people do? Top comment is get a job with the government security forces first and do an extensive background check on all of them. Infiltrate their social circles and follow them around everywhere. Learn everything you can about them, including their extended families. This isn't going to be easy, but it's the only way to be sure. Good luck. That is one way. Let's see about some more reasonable ways. Ask if you can meet with some of them. They may be open to having you come in and have some mini interviews with team members so you can gauge things. Yeah, just asking if you can. That is a sane response. Asking if you can meet some of the members on the team as part of the interview process. That would be good. I know somebody that just went through an interview with my company and they got to meet the members of the team as part of the interview process. And that was very intentional. So I think that that's a good thing, and it helps them kind of realize whether or not they want to come join my company. Let's see, next one. Oh, internet sleuthing, LinkedIn, Glassdoor. Talk to as much people as possible. Follow up if something seems sketchy. Yeah. Also, like if you have a question about an aspect of their culture, ask about it. And then follow up with other people about it. That's a good way to do it. Yeah, it's yeah, that's what I'd do is do as much as possible to just ask and put yourself in a situation where you can ask the right people. Talk to the manager, talk to the peers, talk to maybe the boss's boss, and talk to people that have worked with the boss. Just find, if you're really trying to make a decision, find a way to talk to as many people as possible and ask the questions that kind of give you the feel for how the culture is. But yeah, good question. All right. Next question is, all right, here we go. I got the dates wrong when sending availabilities for next week. Emailed later with 5 minutes later with the right ones. How much would that count against my candidacy? And I have the top comment, not at all. Yeah, it's perfectly reasonable for us to our availabilities to change. I'd just say that if you send somebody a time that you're available for an interview and it turns out that you're not available, definitely just tell them, hey, can we do a new time? And I'm sure that they'll look at calendars and reschedule. For me, I'm on any given week, I probably have 20 to 30 meetings that I sit in, and 2 or 3 of them at a minimum each week get rescheduled or canceled. So people are very used to meetings changing time, and I wouldn't upend my life just to make an interview slot whenever that interview slot doesn't work for me. All right. Well, that was this week in job search questions. We're going to take another quick breather and we're going to finish off with 4 career questions. All right. Be right back. All right. And we are back with 4 interesting career questions before we close out this episode of Engineering Success. The first one is an interesting one, and I have a take on it. And maybe you can have one too. All right. It is. Should I pull the trigger or am I being really stupid? I'm a 2024 grad who scored a rotational program before graduating, and I've been working since earlier this year. My program is over in 2026, and it is designed so that I will have to choose between moving into a new role or leaving the company. Currently, I'm leaning towards leaving the company to go abroad. I'm young, debt-free with a large amount in savings, and I've always wanted to study in a different country. Only reason I didn't do my bachelor's abroad is because of COVID. I feel like I keep waiting for things to get more stable, but it's just really hasn't been since I became an adult. When I think long term, I want to get married and have a kid pretty soon, so maybe like 8-ish years. I am currently one of the only times where my choices don't affect anyone but myself. Now it feels like the time for me. This isn't really a I hate the USA and blah blah blah. It's one of those moments where I have to choose between personal and career. I'm leaning towards leaving / choosing my personal life over my non-existent career. Am I being an idiot, or should I just follow my dreams? In an ideal world, I would ask my mom about this, but she passed when I was young. So if anyone can provide some mom anti-big sis style advice, I would appreciate it. And she posted this in r/woman engineers. So maybe I'm intruding as a male by responding in this space. Okay, edit for clarity. I'm applying to master's programs and not just like moving to move. I include that on my draft, but not my final. I guess I wrote this like 6 times. Sorry. Okay, so the move is to do a master's. I mean, we only live once, and if it's one of those things where not living abroad is one of those things that you're going to take to your grave as the biggest regret you've ever had, then do it. That being said, if you've done a rotational program, it sounds like your experience is not very deep, so you don't really have, I guess, a transferable skill set, it sounds like. So you get this master's degree and you come back. Just realistically, from my financial standpoint, just know that like this is not a good financial move. The job market is soft right now. You have a job. Earning compounds over time. That 5% raise after 3 years of 5% raises is much bigger than the 5% raise the first year, and so on. 401ks compound over time. Savings compound over time. I mean, if you have a trust fund and like so much money that you really don't even have to worry about a career sitting there, then shit, do it. Language, sorry, Daniel. Do it. But if not, I mean, just do the math and get yourself comfortable with the fact that that's what your situation is going to be. And I mean, if you regret it, if you're going to regret it if you don't do it, then goodness, you should definitely do it. That being said, man, I think that my initial inclination whenever I responded to this was say not to do it. But I think I've come around to it. Do it. I mean, if it's going to, if you're going to regret it for your entire life, then do it. That being said, as a mini compromise, some companies offer sabbaticals. Maybe your employer does. And if that's the case, then I'd encourage you to take a sabbatical. Maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, during the, if they like you and they want to give you a return offer to stay in the program and you have your placement, maybe ask if you can negotiate your start date in that placement to start a little bit later. That way you have your job lined up. You can live for a month, 2 months, 3 months in another country and see if you really like it before making the plunge. And then worst case scenario, you didn't like it and you go back to your job and you haven't really been affected that much financially. And then other case scenario, you love it so much that you decide after the sabbatical that you just don't want to return at all. And that's the case too. So maybe that's a way you could kind of onesie twosie dip your way into it. I'm curious to see what other engineers have to say about this. Throwing away a well-paying job to live off your savings in this economy is kind of batshit. Okay. Yeah, I see that, and maybe it's my privilege showing, but I've never had a strong affinity for money. I spent a small portion of my time homeless as a teenager. It was a housing shortage related, not lack of money related. It made me pretty frugal / minimalist. It's cliche, but my mom made almost 7 figures, and that really didn't help her in the hand, and she didn't get to take it with her, and it really left my dad worse off, if you can believe it. I just don't care about money. Sounds like you have a trust. So yeah, just go do it. If your mom was making 7 figures and then died and then left some of that to you, then shoot, just do it. Um, but all right, yeah. And this person goes on and says a lot of things I'm thinking. I don't care about money either. However, that attitude when I was young had pretty serious ongoing consequences for me and my daughter. And I've learned that I do care about the things that are impacted by money because money buys the stuff that you need. You say you want to get married and have a kid at some point. If you don't have enough money, you will struggle to give your child everything she needs. Kids are expensive. Having enough money to hire a cleaner or au pair to outsource some of the domestic work when your child is young is helpful. Release pressure. You say you don't have money. You say the money didn't help your mom. However, how do you know what it would have been like if she didn't have the money? Have you ever gone without a meal or medical needs due to lack of money? What would that period of homelessness have been like without money? So here's a little test to you. If you really don't care about that money and what it buys, don't spend those savings, which I'm assuming was inheriting. Put it away safe for your future child or future you in need of help. Um, yeah, it does seem like OP has kind of a cavalier attitude towards money that make me like the adult in me says we can't get to live out every little fantasy that we want to live out. And I do think that, I mean, there is a risk here that this person is not going to be able to get a job in engineering when they come back, especially if their master's is not technical in engineering, or it's gonna be very hard for them to find a job, and they're gonna be making um, a lot less than they would have been if they had just entered the workforce. Um, so yeah, I'm mixed on this one. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Email me at daniel@engringsuccess.com. Oh my goodness, I forgot to shout out my top tier supporters. Um, thank you so much, John Ott and Leroy Jenkins, for supporting the podcast. Oh, I'm an idiot. But yeah, if this is like I'm going to spend all my savings to do this and I don't have really much to fall back on and I'm jeopardizing and sabotaging my earning potential and I'm relying on the fact that I maybe am going to marry somebody that then will let me not work. This is a bad situation and I wouldn't recommend doing this. I think you got to be an adult here. But I mean, if it's like I will be depressed my whole life if I don't do this, I have the money, I have the fallback. Um, at least dip your toe into it, and then I mean, sure, you can do it, but you have to be willing to live with the consequences. And you were given a lot. There are a lot of potential consequences to this: lost earnings, lost savings, lost relevant experience, stale degree, unable to find a technical engineering degree job. Um, maybe there's a lot of risks here. So yeah, I'd say go for it, but man, that's a difficult one. That's a difficult one. All right, next question. Entry level employee wants to be looped into everything. Here we go. Hi, I supervise one entry level employee. I report to the VP as a senior specialist, and my employee is an associate specialist. She's been here about 1.5 years out of college. She's good, takes initiative, works hard, but lacks some polish, of course. Her written communication isn't great, and her technical skills have some room to improve, but she takes direction reasonably well and has good follow through. Overall, I like her and I enjoy our relationship. She sat me down yesterday and said she wants more visibility. I asked her what she meant. She said she wants to present more at meetings I lead. Fine, happy to coach. Have more autonomy on projects. Fine, I assigned her to one of her own, but she asked that we more democratically assign work. Her idea is that after a team meeting with the VP, her and I should sit down and decide together how to dole out action items. She's asked me to copy more on more of my independent work, so she has more visibility into what I do. My instinct is that these two requests are inappropriate, as one, in deciding what to delegate is part of my job, and two, why does she need visibility? She's not my boss. To be clear, I did not come up this way. There's a very clear chain of command where you do what's asking, you go to meetings you're invited to, and kind of defer to your boss. So these asks are not sitting well with me. I'm not sure if this is a case of that's not how it was done in my day on my part, or are these reasonable requests? Okay, let's look at the two requests. One, delegating. No, I'd say no. As her boss, it's your responsibility to delegate. That being said, like you can have conversations with her about in general, like what she's trying, what direction she's trying to grow into, and what types of things that she wants to learn, and areas where she feels like she needs to learn. General conversations, great. Honestly, like that should be a good thing. You want your employee to grow. But as for like on a case by case basis, doling out action items, no, that's you. That's not her. And maybe she gets it and she just kind of worded it the wrong way, or maybe she has unreasonable expectations. But I think you can kind of coach her on a response to that. Second one, she also asked me to copy her on more of my independent work so she has more visibility into what I do. I can take this one of two ways. I'm going to take it the nice way. It's like, hey, boss, I really am interested in learning what you do. Are there certain things that you can include me on so I can learn more about the context around what I do? If that's the reason why she's asking, great. But if she's like, no, boss, we're equals. Can we both copy each other on everything? I copy you on everything I do. Can you copy me on everything I do? Then no, that's not what I'm looking for here in my employee. So I would assume the best and kind of have a follow-up conversation with this employee to kind of talk through what they've told you and see how let's see what you mean by this. Like, this is what I think I can do for you, but this is what I'm not able to do for you, and then see how it sits, because you are the boss. Let's see what the comments say. Her asking to be included in meetings is fine. Nothing to worry wrong with a fly on the wall to learn and get bigger context. Her asking to decide on work is not. Sorry, but delegation is my sole responsibility. Yeah, and then again, and then the next one is this, and a more serious conversation about her goals in order. She might just be ignorant of how the work relationship works, but what it sounds like here is that she's very ambitious and she wants to grow into a role that's similar to your role, and she wants as much visibility into your role as possible so she can learn and see if that's something that she wants to do. And I would take that ambition and I'd foster it. Have conversations with her about her interest, her goals, so that way you can help build her up, without without shutting down all this ambition, but also keeping a reasonable relationship between you and her. So that's what I would say and what I would do in this situation. I am also not a direct people manager, but I have been that kind of really ambitious employee, and that is the way that that my good managers, have coached me in response, and that's kind of the conversations that I've had with my peers about working with their ambitious employees as managers. All right, next question. Sick day miscommunication. Will this be funny later? Called off sick early this morning, hadn't been feeling well, and picked up a stomach bug that started late last night. Able to keep saltines and water down, but nothing else this morning. Figured that sharing wasn't carrying, so I texted my boss, different location, and had no issues. I originally planned to take some line time today before taking a sick day, and figured that if I didn't show up at the morning meeting, somebody would put two and two together since I'm always there, or at least follow up with an email or a phone call. Apparently that was a mistake. Got a text from one coworker at 8:30 asking about the trial, told them I was off sick. Got a phone call from another coworker a few minutes ago saying that they were holding the line for me, where I was, etc. Finally, just sent out a mass email to the relevant people letting them know I got a stomach bug and was out sick today. Just feeling super embarrassed about the whole thing, as I rarely call out, but also kind of frustrated. If it's inconvenient, I'm sorry, but what if it was a migraine or some other debilitating issue where I can't always answer the phone or respond to texts and emails? I'll try some more solid food on my stomach later today, but I don't have a crystal ball to predict when I'll be back in. And I sure as heck don't want to be having issues at work in a shared bathroom. Hopefully this will be funny later, or maybe I'll just continue to be embarrassed. I don't I wouldn't be too embarrassed about it, but what I would say is that I think you failed to communicate. You said you texted your boss, but your boss is a different location, and presumably, I guess your boss doesn't coordinate with your peers on a day-to-day. Maybe your boss is a little more hands-off. If I was a boss and somebody told me that, I would usually in that email say, "Hey, thanks for letting me know." And if you've just let me know, then I assume that you as my employer are then doing all of the other professional things you need to do. If I'm a boss and I say, "Hey, thanks for letting me know, what needs to be done? Do you need coverage?" Which again, you're a line, I guess you work in a factory, so your coverage is not related to your boss. It sounds like your coverage is related to peers that your boss doesn't necessarily coordinate with. But again, if in this situation, it sounds like your boss is not the person to coordinate with your colleagues. And if they were, then maybe that's a failure a little bit on your boss here. But here's what I do whenever I'm out sick. I send a note to my teammates letting them know I'm going to be out sick. I send a note to all my meetings that I have that day, letting them know that I'm going to miss those meetings. This is the first thing that I do, regardless of how bad I feel. This is the first thing that I do. And if I feel so bad, then I tell my boss, hey, I'm not going to be able to let everybody know that I'm out. Can you please let them know for me? But goodness, I changed my calendar to out of office. Again, I applied decline to all my meetings. And anybody that depends on me, needs something from me, has a deadline that's dependent on me, I send them a note letting them know, and I give them a coverage plan or refer them to somebody else that can cover for me. And then I also send a note to all the people that can, before that, I've sent a note to all the people that can cover for me, letting them know that I'm going to be out and letting them know who is depending on them while I'm out. This was a miscommunication and it was a failure of professionalism. That is it. That's the reality. You didn't tell people that you were out and you just assumed that they'd realize that you not being there. There's there's a million different reasons why you could not be somewhere. You could be running late. You could be stuck in traffic. You could have gotten in a car accident. You could be sick. You could be going to a doctor's appointment. You could be taking the dog to go to the vet. You could be taking kids to school. There's plenty of reasons why you could not miss that meeting. So for you to assume that they know that you not being there for the morning stand-up means you're not going to be there all day. Call no showed. To your teammates, call no showed. So you failed. So Outlook. Almost every company functions on Outlook. If not Outlook, whatever, Slack, whatever. Set your status as out of office. Mark off your calendar as out of office. Decline all your meetings for the day. Let everybody know. That's what you should have done, and you failed to do that. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's funny later, but like I'd just be like kind of annoyed at you as your peer, and it's not really something I'd ever bring up again as like oh my goodness, that was so funny whenever you no call no showed and then we covered, and then halfway into the day you kind of half-heartedly letting everybody know that you're gonna be out for the rest of the day. I mean, I don't know. I feel like you could have done better here, and I just don't think it's an amusing situation. I think it was your misstep not to communicate that you were out sick to the relevant team members, not just your boss. But it's not going to be a big deal by the time tomorrow comes. Yep, exactly. Things happen, and we're not superhuman, and everyone tries to guilt you about it as being unnecessarily difficult. You'll forget about it soon enough. Yeah, even as simple as updating the Outlook out-of-office replies can save such headaches. Shouldn't be up to an employee to tell peers level coworkers about time off. That's the boss's job. Not always the case. Depends on the relationship with the boss and how the team is run. My boss would only notify people of my absence if I asked her to. That's pretty much my experience as well in my work experience. So you take a few sick days that you forgot to notify the correct people? If so, that's funny. I wouldn't be embarrassed that you had to call out. I usually let my boss and my closest coworker know. Production line time. Yeah, you should have marked out. I mean, it's so easy to mark out of office. You use Teams. Goodness. Yeah, no, I said in the comments, you said you use Teams. So I'm assuming you also use Outlook. The following assumes you're in a position where you have access to your work email account from your home, but next time, block off your calendars out of office and set up an out of office message that replies to emails and shows up as your team status. Your boss could have helped you coordinate outwards, but if you're in a role where you have access to your computer to send an out of office message, you should have sent an out of office message. Not the end of the world, but it sounds like it worked out. But if you're going to be out of office and you have access to sending an out of office message, set one. That's like basic corporate professional 101. All right. If you disagree with me, email me, let me know. All right. Last one. We're going to close on a fun one. All right. What's the most comedically comedically non-engineering related tasks that you get paid to do daily. Hearing a lot of engineers never touching any kind of engineering related work at their job, I am sure some of y'all have some hilarious ones. Oh goodness, I guess none of my job is like super engineering designing heavy. What are the funny things I do? I do the dishes. Everybody on my floor, we have a kitchen. We don't have like a person that like is a cleaner that cleans our kitchen. So I often find myself doing dishes, and not necessarily all the dishes at any given time, but for some reason dishes keep on piling up in our sink. I don't know why. But I do find myself doing the dishes often. So I guess that's the most comedically non-engineering related task that I get paid to do daily. I get paid to do my timesheet. That's not engineering. I got to spend a lot of time doing timesheets. But that's everybody, I think, in engineering. So maybe that is engineering. I get paid to... No, I think that's it. The most comedically non-engineering related task that I get paid to do daily is I get paid to do the dishes. So, anyways, what's the most non-engineering thing that you get paid to do? Let me know down in the comments. Send me a note. All right, well, that was this week's episode of the Engineering Success Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you think that somebody would benefit from a podcast about career pursuits in engineering, pursuing engineering degrees, share this to them. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. All that stuff really helps me out in the algorithm. I'm available on YouTube, all your podcast platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever. I'm available pretty much everywhere, so you can listen to me wherever you want to go. And thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to be on the podcast, if you want to talk about your engineering journey, shoot me an email at daniel@engringsuccess.com or DM me on Instagram or Twitter at my handle at engringsuccess. I'm on all of the social media websites. I'm not very good at keeping my TikTok updated, but I have one of those for those who are on there. So, but yeah, thank you so much for listening. And then I'm going to close by thanking my top tier supporters, John Ott and Leroy Jenkins, for donating $10 a month. That money helps me keep my website domain, my email address, and all of the financial things that are related to help me break even on this podcast. This is a passion project. This is not something I make a lot of money doing, but this is something that I think is valuable and important. So thank you, John Ott. Thank you, Leroy Jenkins. And if you want to join them in supporting me, you can support me on Patreon, where I receive your money. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. I'm miscommunicating. I just made a pilot, then they threw me on the stations. Now I'm not complaining. My thoughts get complicated, I cannot explain in lameness. Never losing focus because I ain't chasing payments. Still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries, thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify, they put me on the station.